all right. All right. So Power BI license, user-based and capacity-based. User-based, you have two types of license: free user and pro user. Pro user $10 a month, and free user you don't need to pay anything. In the middle, you have pro trial license, which basically 60 days free, and pro trial basically have the full functionality of the pro license. Okay. Another one is capacity-based, which is premium. Today's topic is focused on the Power BI premium. In terms of difference between the pro license and basically you offer free user. Biggest difference is free user does not have the capability of collaboration. As long as you want to share reports, you want to email subscription to another user, both of them need a pro license. Pro user cannot share report to free user. Free user of course cannot share report to pro user. Okay. There's nothing wrong. Free user can use Power BI desktop to author report and publish to powerbi.com, but they just cannot share the reports and collaborate with their peers. Okay. In order to collaboration, you have to have two pro license for each side, the recipient and the sender. Both of them need a pro license. Okay. With Power BI Premium, it's a dedicated resource on the cloud, and flexible for the license because you can bring in free users in premium-based workspace. They don't need to carry in pro license. They still can view and consume your report. Dedicated resource meaning great performance because you got a CPU, you got memory, you got storage. That's only for you. Also, you have Power BI report server, which is on-premise report server. Okay. Embedded analytics, most companies, as I mentioned, so they do what they're using the application wrap up the code and embedded report tile dashboard in the application and passing the credential as a system account. So make all the users controllable on their web application to access the report. Okay, so this is a list of reasons why we need a premium node. First of all, performance, because you have dedicated resource CPU and the memory. More frequently, if you are a pro user, you can up to 8 times a day to refresh your dataset. However, if the dataset sits in the workspace backed up by the Premium, you can do 48 times a day, which means every 30 minutes you can refresh the dataset. The third one is distributed content to the users. They don't need to carry in with the pro license, right? So another one is large storage, 100 terabyte. Basically, it's unlimited. It's unlimited. Another one, incremental load. That's only for premium capacity. The dataset can premium incremental load. I think we will cover this topic in another session. I will cover this one in another session. Incremental load, right? That's a feature already available, but it's only available for premium. You can set up an incremental load in Power BI desktop, but it only works when you upload the PBIX file into the workspace backed by Premium. Okay, Power BI report server. I have a session talk about this 2 months ago. You can search in the YouTube. Another one is support large data sets, P1 3 GB and P2 6 GB, P3 10 GB. 10 GB here means PBIX file, meaning outside the data set is going to be 10 times. Okay, 100 GB data set. All right, different level of Premium and 8 cores, 16 cores. Let's take an example P1, 4 core, 25 GB RAM and 4 cores front cores. Last column is very important. It's concurrency thread, right? So meaning refresh paradigm. At the same time, how many data sets you can process at the same time. For P1, you got 6. If you want to process the data sets like 8, as I said, the 2 need to be sitting in the queue, and until the other 2 free up the concurrency thread, then another 2 can get the resource to be processed. So that's the paradigm of the refresh. Okay, P1, P2, P3, P4, P5, P4, P5. We just added earlier this year, I think March. So some limitation for P4 and P5. P4, P5 right now only available Western US and Southeast Asia, Australia. What does that mean? Is they don't have multi-geolocation. At least they do not have in Europe, in Europe, in Japan, in China, in other countries. Okay, one of benefits, as I mentioned in last slide, is Permian can set up a multi-geography location capacity. What does that mean? Is, for example, I bought a P3. What I got is 32 V cores. When I set up a capacity, I can slice up, say this A cores goes to sit in Japan, only be used by Japan user. Okay, so because of this, you will get great performance. Then you put a capacity in US. That's a very important feature, and we just released the last month. Okay, that's called a home region. Sometime you will heard about it, and it's multi-geography support. All right, so moving on. Okay, shared capacity, dedicated capacity. You should spend the time to read the slides. I think capacity here means, I just point out, capacity here means CPU, storage, and memory. Okay, CPU, storage, and memory. Back-end calls and the front-end calls. What duty they cover respectively. Okay, another case I'll talk about license. I think you guys already covered this. So all the readers, they don't need to carry in Pro license. They don't need to carry in Pro license. As long as the report of content in the Permian, they can consume it. Okay. All right, cool. This is the slide to talk about when you have P1, meaning you have AV calls, and you can set up a premise report server on premise, right? You can set up a on premise. So how you plan for it? So the slide here is this guy has a P2, or say 2 P1. Oh, he had 2 P1. 2 P1 is A plus A, which is 16 cores. 16 cores, he says, okay, physical cores 4, and 10. This is how he uses 16 total cores in the different server. Okay, for yourself, some real case I see people maybe install the Power BI report server on QA, DV, right? 2 cores for DV, 4 cores for QA, and 12 cores, and maybe split up 6 or maybe A4 for the primary server and the secondary server on production, right? That's how you use it. All right. How much capacity? That's very hard question. So people say, oh, all right, I have this workspace, 100 workspace, I have this data size, I have all of this. So tell me, how much capacity do I need to buy? All right. So far, unfortunately, in short, there is no very scientific metrics we can give you the opinion. But on the website, right? On the website, let's grab this link. Sorry. So let's grab this link. Let's open up a web browser. Okay. So this is how you can type in and calculate. Okay. You say, I have total user 6,000 and Pro user gonna be about only 100 or maybe 200. That's Pro user. And you split up by the frequent user and the occasional. So let's say frequent user gonna be 2,000. Okay, it's about it. So you have 2,000 and 3,800 occasional user. If that's the case, this 200 user need a Pro license because they need to update, they need to edit the report. So they need to carry in, they need to also report, they need to carry in Pro license. For others, they don't need to, but what you need based on the user base, it's recommended to have 3 P3s. Sorry, 3 P1s. Buy 3 P1s. Or you can buy 1 P3. It's different, sorry. You can buy 1 P2 plus 1 P1. Yes. Yeah. Okay, so this is a recommendation. This is the calculate. It's based on all the users we see and they buy, and it's the average. It's the average. So definitely, it has some scientific mechanism behind the scene, but it's just roughly because it's average. It's average. A lot of factors can impact this. I have another way talk about maybe next slide. I will talk about how we usually do it. So first tool is this calculate on the website. Second, is profiling. First step to do is usage profiling, right? You bought a premium. Okay, you want to migrate to the workspace, not migrate to the local, migrate. Basically, you want to turn on the capacity premium node for your workspace. But let's say you have 20 workspace, then you don't need to talk about this. Okay, all I'm talking about right now, the methodology or approach is for you have more than 100 workspace. I see some actually customers, they have more than 500, more than 1,000 workspaces. Okay, so that's the case. Let's talk about this methodology. What's the method you can do more scientific than just you by whatever you're thinking, right? So we need more proof. So first of all, you need to collect some usage. The usage include the number of workspace and how many users. What's the peak usage time? How many concurrency users online? Data set size. Open up the workspace. Basically, it's a list of the data set size. You add up together. That's if all these data sets pop up in the memory, how much memory going to be used, right? Data set refresh frequency. Why it's important? Because I mentioned every data set when it refresh in the memory, basically it double the memory usage, right? One is for the all the data set refresh. One is for the new data set refresh, and the older ones still sit in a copy in the memory for warm access by the user. So that's why when refresh time, actually the data set take a double memory in usage. Okay, so all this information you're trying to, whatever you do the capacity planning or you don't, actually I definitely recommend you actually as the admin, you need to get this idea, providing the usage at least in weekly basis, right? So you need to know when your boss asks you, hey, how many users, what's peak user, what should probably use the most, or whatever, what's the frequency and inquiry waiting time, and what's the data size we hold on the PowerBI.com, and how many users we now internally and externally, how many workspace we have, right? So all these questions, as an admin, I think you should provide. You should at least noting down somewhere in a weekly basis to track the usage of your PowerBI.com. So here are some tools can help you to do this. First of all, PowerShell scripts. I think a lot of new features just added in PowerShell script last week. And on the Power BI admin portal, you have an audit log. Okay, you have audit log. In the audit log, it tracks about more than 100 different events. So it has everything there. Okay, another one is a third-party tool called the Neo Analytics. Check that out. It has a very nice execution log. All right, so this is the usage profiling. Second one is the setup capacity. Let's say you have 2 P3s. Right here, you have 20 nodes. All right, 20 nodes. Basically, he had probably by the EM3 and the 3. Let's see, 16. Which is P2. Okay, I don't know how you get us 20 nodes, but let's say you have 20. You can slice up by this capacity. You don't need to use as one. Now, someone by P1 AV cause he don't want to split. It's okay. You just use as a whole. Fine. If you have 2 P3, I would definitely suggest you split them up and for the different usage. Okay, so here's the example. Here's the user case. Let's say this guy has 3 P3s. So in total, sorry, let's see. So in total, he had 96 vCores, right? So for UAT environment, he set up the capacity, name UAT environment, and the 16 vCores. So web the life cycle, he published to the workspace in UAT first. After testing, he can move down, promote to the production environment. Production further split up by the finance and the sales department. They use 16 vehicles, and the PD for other divisions, they use under 33, right? This is capacity. So he set up 5 capacities. Every capacity can host a multiple workspace. Okay, multiple workspace. So another 2 example, he set up external reports and for external user, and another external reports for Europe. What does that mean? At this capacity, he probably set up the home region in Europe. Okay, set up home region in Europe. Okay, so when you plan the capacity, when you slice it up, which is good, the next step is turn on. Okay, you can assign a workspace in capacity. Okay, by sequence. If you have 200, 100, 500, definitely I don't want you to turn on everything. I don't want you to turn on everything. So what I would consider to do is on this slide. So I basically split up in the different category. You have different approach. This is the one approach I do in the past. So define a 4 buckets, like whether the workspace is business critical, whether I have to moving a Premium. For example, what cases I have to moving Premium, because I have reports in this workspace and I want to share to the free user. Then you have to move in, because if you don't move in, the free user cannot see it. So that's technical required. You need to move in Premium capacity. Or say you have data sets, you want to refresh more than 8 times a day. That's technical required. You have to move them in a Premium capacity. Okay, for all of this, I define the technical required. And also I define bucket that says business critical, meaning you expect high performance, high availability, and a higher availability. You cannot have any downtime. And you actually high level managers look at reports. That's technical. That's business critical. Okay. Now you have 4 buckets. Not business critical, but technical required. Second is business critical and technical required. So this is very critical. Another one is business critical, but technical and not required. Another one is not business critical and not technical required. First of all, I don't want you move everything in Premium. This quadrants, I want you to stay in shared capacity. That's just my opinion. And by sequence, you should consider move this bucket first. It's not business critical, but it's technical required. So anyway, you need to move. But I want to use this one as the first batch for testing to accumulate some experience. Okay, you can learn some experience from this, because even some reporter move on somehow. Okay, it's not openable or wherever you learn some experience, but it's not business critical, right? It will not be escalated by the users. I feel safer. Okay, so I use the bucket number 1 first. What's next? Monitoring your capacity. Monitoring a week to see everything looks good. Then you can move on. Because you did exercise on bucket 1, now you have experience. You know how to do number 2 and handle it much better than 1. Okay, and so on. You categorize your workspace in 4 buckets and turn on a Premium 1 category at a time and in order. Okay, before the next move, make sure the previous one sitting in the capacity, and that capacity health check is looking good. Okay, that's about the approach I was taking before. So just for your reference. All right, what's next? Okay, Q&A. All right, I take some questions right now. I think what time right now? Let's see. All right, cool. Very good control. 53 minutes. I take some questions. Before the question. Next session is 1 week. In 1 week, August 16. I'm gonna talk about AI in modern workplace. Okay. So here the link. I'm gonna also copy this link. Actually, copy this link in the. Oh, sorry. It's not editable. All right, I also copied this one. Copy this one in the chat box. You can register right away. All right, cool. All right. I put a link in the chat box. You can register right away. So it's August 16. I'm going to talk about AI in modern workplace. So AI actually in Power BI a lot. I'm going to cover this next time maybe. All right, see some questions. It's the same environment, Power BI or Premiere. Yeah, whether you Pro license or you Premiere, it's the same environment. Only thing different is people working on the street, and you probably get a house, get a cooler place, and get a fancy place, wherever. That's dedicated capacity. That's dedicated resources you have. The question is, with Premiere, with the best way to share the dashboard with a large group of users? Same way. Yeah, I mean, you in the Premiere, you can do everything. They don't need to carry in any Pro license. They are free users. You can share with them. You can use the embedded, and they can access the report, which is cool. So that's one of the benefits for Premiere. Yes, depends, right? So I guess your question is, should I use a system account, or I should give a free user to access the Premiere? That's probably your question. It depends. Depends on whether you have low-level security. If you don't have low-level security, meaning you don't want to limit the data visibility by different user login, so it doesn't matter. So they can embed the report on the application, and the credential for the application will be system account. That's good enough, because they open up applications, they see everything the same. You don't have low-level security. If you have low-level security, if you have low-level security requirements for reports, you definitely need to consider to capture their login. Okay, that would be totally different. So it depends on your requirement. All right, so again, I just want to demo a little bit to see how it looks like, right? How it looks like. A couple of things. Hold on one second. Grabbing my login information. So you have low-level security requirement or not? If you do, yes, of course. You can handle it in different ways. You can handle it in Power BI, or you can handle it in SSAS Cube. It depends on your data source. In SQL Server, even it can handle that. You can capture the username. All right, so. Alrighty. Okay. Wait a minute. Maybe this is not. Hold on one second. Okay, I'll give it a try first. Maybe this is not. Oh, this is not. Sorry. Give another user. All right. All right. So I just probably spend 5 minutes, take you guys a look at it, how it looks like in terms of the capacity, in terms of the Power BI admin portal, what kind of events you can capture. So first off, if your workspace has been based by Premiere, you will see this logo diamond shape icon beside it. That means you have Premiere based backed up for this capacity, right? So you go to this capacity, actually, hold on one second. So, and a workspace, okay. So advanced basically has been turned on. Workspace has been turned on. Dedicated capacity. Okay, dedicated capacity. So that's one way you can turn on, by the way. But this is not efficient way. If you have less than 10 workspace, less than 200, that's okay. Okay, that's okay. But you see this premier name, capacity name, and the East US. But sometimes this workspace, as I mentioned, I want to share to European user. You can set up a maybe Japan, Germany, or maybe some Europe region. That will be for better performance. That's one way to turn on a capacity, but this is not the most efficient way to turn on a capacity. Okay, let's take a look a couple of things. Let's go to the admin portal. So one thing I pointed out, say, okay. Okay, one thing I mentioned is, all right, I want to capture, I want to provide the usage, but how did I do? One of tools I mentioned is the audio log. Audio log right here, you need to turn on. Oh shit. Let's see. Okay, all these events has been available. It's, if I scroll all the way down, you can type, right? You can type. Let me scroll down. Because Power BI is a one-off members in Office 365. Right now, audio log is in Office 365. It captures many things. Okay, right here is the Power BI activities. Okay, you still have a lot. The viewers view the dashboard, edit dashboard, share the dashboard, view tile, view reports, purchase, publish web, or whatever. Any event has been captured right here. So if I want to know anything about capacity, right? 6 events, including upload capacity, display name, capacity admin, migrate workspace to capacity, change capacity state, or whatever. Okay. All right, here is the way you can capture audio log to see how many execution usage, how many users, what's the activity they do, view, report, view, dashboard, view type, everything you can capture right here. Okay, that's the audio log I mentioned. Another one is capacity setting. All right, so you see my capacity, I have a P1. I did not split it up, but if I want to, I can separate 2, 6, or maybe 6, 4, 4. Okay, then you have 2 capacity were listed here. Okay, each one can set up a region. This one set up as what? East US. Okay, East US, right? So if I click into the capacity name, you basically can see the healthy status of this capacity. So that's what I'm saying. When you move in, you nice to monitor the capacity, monitor capacity usage. Make sure it's in healthy status. Right. So it takes the time. It grabs the time usage, right? Exceed 80%. It used to be, you can see the check mark, green and the red. Right now, I take it off. So it tells you some basic information. Said exceed 80% utilization 0 time, which is good. Meaning for CPU intensive activities never exceed 80%, which is good. So meaning the load for this capacity is good. It's at least it's very healthy right now. Okay. Memory is the same thing, whether it's over 80% utilization in the past, 0 times. Memory usage, 2 gigabyte. It's very low. Actually, we have, as I said, we have 25 gigabyte. So it's very low. So that, which is good. So you click the tile and you can come into the details, right? In the past 7 days. All this report will be ready, independently, actually, sooner or later. It will be in the apps in the marketplace. You can use it, not only the people see here, but also available in the apps. So, yes, that's it. That's something I want to give you guys some exploring idea what it looks like in terms of capacity setting. Also, most of people ask me, hey, you mentioned data set. If you in the import mode, it will then take the memory. So what about I using direct query? How can I calculate the size? That's another question I got very often. So for direct query, you don't hold the data actually in PowerBI.com, but the consumption most coming from the data source. That's one thing. Second, when query against the data source, it fetch over to the PowerBI.com. It's CPU incentive instead of memory intensive. Okay, so just to let you know, so you don't need to calculate the direct query how much the data set size is, and in your planning, you don't need to. All right, cool. That's all the session today. I only want to cover Power BI Premium today. Maybe something I not covered. I hope you have question for me. All right, I'm open for any question you have. All right, any questions? Another question is the best practice to have one workspace as production and another one as dev. From my perspective, I think yes. At least it's a life cycle. At least you have logical separation. You want to make sure every report has been tested, fully tested, and performance tested. Then move on the high environment. To me, yes, it's a good environment. It's a good practice to me. But 50% for myself, I think yes. For someone else, I see my customers, I see some companies, they don't do this way. Okay, they don't do this way. I think their reason is it is self-service. We want to empower the business user and less control, less governance. As long as we have a very strong governance, we don't want to control ahead of that, but we can monitor the usage. As long as they don't exceed the usage, they don't break the environment down, I'm fine, right? It's self-service. The quick turning around, it will be helpful for the business people. So yeah, it's debatable. To me, I think it's best practice to logically segregate DV, maybe QA, and production. To me, yes. Some user may argue differently. I just let you know. All right, cool. Thank you, everybody. I'm gonna upload the video to YouTube. If you missed it, you can watch it. And if you need the next week's link, I'm gonna post in the comments. Or you can grab it, can register it. Let's see you in a week. All right, cool. Have a good night. Bye.